It doesn't matter, they can have a name. Yeah, huh? That's all I can say. Hey, question. Okay, so I came in here from town meeting.
Yeah. I don't think. It could be another. That's enough. Not coming up. Maybe. You. You like. Let's start with it. Let's start with it. Seven operating systems.
Okay, thanks. You had a review, they started at 6 and they voted at 6. They have no meetings at 6 unless they have special meetings at 5. So if they voted at 6, they have to start the meetings at 6, they can't start. Take one on four. That's the one that's not. Yeah, but we're saying if we remove the meetings at 6, we just can't change the time of the town. That's not true. They can't choose to cut down meeting time. They have to have special hearings to. It takes you to a cat.
Mine? Shit. Because it's just the way the world is sometimes.
Tell me when the world's nice to me and then you're hard.
It's been pretty good to me. I woke up this morning.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, me too. So long as I woke up. Every week. Who is it? Running.
When you're from.
Yeah, the fishing, I'm not a player. Yeah, he has, actually, I'm not. Oh, yeah. What kind of, DJ was,
Yeah, Ross.
A lot of people, they don't want to keep going like that. They come out to buy.
We just took one or 2 weeks
I
ago.
know, better, not better. I'll make another. I think it's every month. Yeah, I talked to him one time, I was down there 3 years ago. Well, screws. We told him that guy he's related to. Hey, like. That's a nice fish, they used to us. We gotta go in, there's another guy there. I don't. Digo, sí, sí, de utilizar material, sí. Y la ley, ahora solo se llama. It's over 100, probably 60 years ago. And it was going to do 70.
Yeah.
Everything that's not, we go out there. Biggest bear practically. Monday.
How are you? Good, how are you? There were 2.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got No.
So we told her about
You know what, she might be.
Do everything I don't touch it. The pond is, or in, what is it, further down, where you have all the.
So Steve, how are you doing today? Thank Long time no see. I got your messages earlier, so.
Oh, yeah?
We can connect that.
Say again?
We can connect that We're back and forth, and then I got your message, and then I had to get on the meeting. And then when you said I will connect
Oh, she's doing great, yeah. We talked,
I just don't know.
I mean, you're famous something. That was for $1 million. The time they went to state sold out something. And the game worked.
You know this Alexander?
I want, she's on her way.
Hi, Brenda. Are you
No, that's my grandson.
Oh.
Because I get to tell him to do it in this way, what I want. So I gotta put the back in work myself. He's
Yes. And we have. The whole story. That would be one Tuesday.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here this evening. Today is Monday, July 14th. The time is now 5:07 in the evening. We are here at the Mesilla Town Hall for our regularly scheduled Board of Trustees meeting. The first item on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please stand with me. And one thing I will ask is after the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would please remain standing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the reason why I asked for everybody to remain standing, but before we begin, I'd just like to take a moment of reflection and respect. Words can't express the tremendous grief our community and the surrounding communities are experiencing over several tragedies that have occurred within the past couple of weeks. As a community, we are stunned by many of these tragic events. Here in Doñana, we mourn the loss of a life, and our deepest sympathies go out to Doñana County Sheriff Deputy Alaman, his family, and his friends. In one of our neighboring communities, Ruidoso, 3 lives have been lost, as well as many losing their homes and businesses due to flash flooding. Also recently, in our neighboring state of Texas, devastating flooding, taking more than 130 lives, with as many as 160 still accounted for, are still at stake at that. And here, within our own community, in the town, we've lost so many residents within the past couple of weeks, both young and old. It's just time to take that little bit of reflection and respect. I do want to note that I commend the actions and courage of our first responders, rescue workers, and volunteers, including our own town team that has stepped in to support the coverage in a time of need. As we attempt to return to somewhat normalcy, we'll need to look to the wisdom of our local leaders and our residents who are determined to not allow these events to change our way of life. So if you'll please join me in a moment of silence for all those that have fallen, those that have sustained significant losses, and those that have shown tremendous support in our time of need. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda is roll call and determination of a quorum. Gloria, if you would help, please.
Mayor Hernandez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Present.
Trustee Cadena.
Present.
Trustee Johnson Burr.
Here.
Trustee Nevares.
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is changes and approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevares. And I actually do have some changes on the agenda that we do need to make and note. The first is at the top of the agenda, it does say regular meeting with a public hearing, and unfortunately that is a typo. There's not a public hearing that is scheduled for today. This is just a regularly scheduled board meeting. And also a change in the note that I'd like to have the BOT meeting minutes for under the 4A for the consent agenda moved to action and consideration to be the first thing heard under new business. If I can have a motion for the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor with the amendment by Trustee Nevada, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. Are there any other changes to the agenda? If I can have Gloria roll call on the amended agenda, please.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you for approval of the agenda for this evening with the change in the title of that meeting or the meeting, and for clarification, as well as moving item 4A to be heard under action and consideration first. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. This is for approval of the the approval of a purchase order for quality window tinting for window tint service in the amount of $8,677.46. Approval of a purchase requisition for custom signals for Marshall vehicles in the amount of $4,657.38. An approval for purchase requisition for Malloy Dodge Marshall vehicle purchase in the amount of $46,017. Approval of purchase requisition for A Mountain Construction for road maintenance in the amount of $94,418.51. Approval of purchase requisition for CES Calle de Santiago project, $168,560.18. Approval of purchase requisition for Small Beginnings Marshall purchases and $37,522.51. Approval of purchase requisition for Southwest Biotech for the community center, $5,397. Approval of PZHAC case 062021 for 2185 Calle de Guadalupe, submitted by Richard Moreno, requesting approval to install 2 gates on his property in the historic residential zone. And approval of PZHAC case 062022 at 2316 Calle de Colon, submitted by Stephen Martinez, requesting approval to renovate his workshop's roof, currently with rolled roofing, to change it to a white or natural corrugated steel in the historic residential zone. Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. And unless there's discussion or objection, the motion will carry with unanimous consent. Thank you very much for approval of the consent agenda that does include approval of the purchase order for quality window tinting, approval for purchase requisition custom signals, approval of purchase requisition for Malloy Dodge, approval for purchase requisition A Mountain Construction, approval for purchase requisition CES, approval for purchase requisition Small Beginnings, approval for purchase requisition Southwest Envirotech, approval for PZHAC case 2021, approval of PZHAC case 062022. Thank you for those approvals. Next item on the agenda is public input on cases, where the public is invited to address the board for the cases that are being heard this evening. One thing that I will note is that there was a little bit of discussion during the planning and zoning meeting concerning the university project at the last planning and zoning meeting last week. So if there is any discussion on that as well, I will open that up for discussion right now to our public input. So if anybody has any public input, if you would approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Mary Helen Raichi, 2231 Calle Santiago. And I am just wondering, I see that I and J on the agenda are information about new P&Z alternates. And I'm just wondering or asking about the transparency of having that posted for people that might be interested in it. So I just wanted to mention that before that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Raichi.
Trina Witter. I had 3 items that I wanted to bring up. The first one deals with the voting on the ISIP projects. I didn't see anything in the packet itemizing what those projects are. So as a member of the community, I don't know what you're voting on when you're voting in favor of funding that. So if at some point during the meeting tonight, you could detail what those projects actually are. The second one was related to the municipal court. I was not able to attend either of the two meetings that were held. And I was trying to read through the minutes today, and they were very long. And I think it came out Friday, and I was out of town all weekend, and I got back late last night. So I didn't get through them all. So forgive me for that. But I was trying to understand, one of the questions I had that maybe you could discuss is go over the pros and cons of the financial aspects of whether we should keep it or not keep it. And, will it be a net gain, a net loss, or just a neutral change? And if the other question I had was if all of the cases were going to be going over to magistrate court, or some cases were going to be kept here in Mesilla, and if some were going to be still kept here with the municipal court, if you could give examples of those types of cases, like codes or, some other type of items. And the third one was, I did get through part of the minutes where they talked about how there's a state requirement now for the magistrate courts to have a legal background, which I think is a good thing. But I was wondering if there are requirements here for the town that they could adopt for training or legal requirements for if we do keep part of our cases here, the training of the municipal judge. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ritter.
Veronica Garcia, 2168 Calle de los Huertos. Very disappointed on the board. You guys approved a window tinting when the job was already done. Aren't you supposed to bring it to the board first and then get work? Or is it we do first and ask forgiveness later? And you guys approved it. So, that's very sad that you guys are doing that. So if that's going to be the case, then why have a board? Just give the ink pen to the town clerk and let her go ahead and keep writing checks out, and then we'll figure out how to pay it later. For the court part, I do apologize to Judge that I wasn't here to make it the second meeting. My mom was in the hospital and she was ill. But we requested some information, and I know I requested it. I talked to Attorney Macias. He wasn't aware that we were doing this. I talked to the sheriff's department. They weren't aware the town was doing this. I know they were getting hold of the courts. I did ask if we can go ahead and speak to them and see if they're able to handle our court case handled. Didn't get a response back. It's very sad that you ask us what we need for the next meeting, but we don't receive it back. So it's okay for us to give you guys information, but you won't give it back. So don't tell me it's transparent, because it's not at all. It's not very transparent. I told you that money's been moving around. Money's being reimbursed from the courts. Has nothing to do with this. Yes, it does. Checks and balances. Because I can guarantee you that the court is not wasting that much money that you guys assuming that you guys are. I suggest, my opinion is that you postpone this, get an audit for the courts, and see exactly what's going on. Because what's going to happen, you keep reversing those payments, who's going to be in trouble? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You all will be. I was suggested, we do have it a recording that reverse payments are happening in this town in the court. They did tell me to get a hold of state cops, go through the process of it and see what's going on. There was money being pulled out of the courts. Turn a blind eye. Did you guys ever get packets of how much the court is wasting and what they're not wasting? Probably not, because you guys don't ask. You guys are just saying yes. Anybody doing the homework? There's 3 sides to every story. You got hers, and the one in the middle, and you're only taking one side. Who's done the research for all 3 sides? Nobody. I did. I went to Fernando Macias. Took me like a month to get a hold of him. He called me today. Went to the marshals, the sheriff's department. Had a meeting with them last week. Went to Ramona. Had meetings with her. If you guys love the town the way you say you love it, just remember who brought the court here. It wasn't us. It was our ancestors. Your brother, your family, your grandma. And just to watch it tear down like this, that's wrong. That's completely wrong. But once again, I guess let's sign checks and get rid of the courts so we can reverse payments, and how are we gonna balance now? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Chris Alexander. I've got a real problem with anybody wanting to abolish our municipal court. The town of Mesilla was established as its own town, with it creating their own rules, their own way of operating the government with checks and balances, including the portion of the government that's a judicial branch. And what if you are thinking of closing that down, you're not doing the town of Mesilla any favor whatsoever. The revenues that you think you're spending now for legal representation will be much more than what you're spending. And you're not going to have the convenience of going to court between whatever your court hours are here. You'll end up being in night court along with everybody else. And you will be paying everybody to go ahead and appear, do their testimony, take all the revenue that the town of Mesilla would have got. They get nothing. We go ahead and we provide the services. We write a violation. We take somebody to court. We do whatever. Then we turn it all over to the county, and the county will go ahead and handle that. And how much consideration has been done with the county openly, with the public, about whether the county can afford to take on the additional load through the magistrate court. Right now, they can't handle what they've got. The district attorney's office can't handle what they've got because of time factors. Now you're going to start throwing in misdemeanor violations, anything that requires a court appearance. And we have our own people here. The Constitution says that we will be tried by our own peers. Doñana County is not our peer. We are our municipality, Mesilla. We should be treated as so. If you think you can't afford this court, I think you ought to take a little different look at your budget and how you're spending money every day. Today, how much money you just approved? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're worried about the efficiency of the court. And so you give the court up, the county gets the grant money to create more court for them, not for us. We need to take the initiative to stand up for ourselves and put our efforts back into our pockets instead of everybody else's. What's going to happen next? Your police department going to get abolished because you've got no jurisdiction? You give a ticket, you're going to have to send somebody over to the magistrate court. It just doesn't gel. And what you're taking all the government apart piece by piece. And if you intend to do something like that, you need to give not a public hearing, but put it as a referendum on a ballot and let everybody that votes in this town decide their destiny, not having 4 or 5 people directing it. And then what little assets that are generated, you're giving them away to somebody else for convenience because you don't think things are efficient enough. And if things were handled efficiently with the different departments that are involved, the court could function. But you can't bring something to court without sufficient evidence to prosecute on. And so with that, if you were sitting at it as a judge, you would have to let it go out the window too. It's not a matter of the judge being able to do it. It's the presentation of the evidence. And so that is not the responsibility of the court. That's the responsibility of you people to see to it that our government takes care of doing what they're supposed to do. And so this is just a precursor of what could come to be. You do away with our judicial system. The next thing, we don't need a court. We got the county to do it. Well, you know what? We don't need a police department. We get the county to do it. After all, they're the ones that are going to benefit from everything that's going on. Let them do the police work. Let them pay their employees. Why should we do it and give it all away? So I don't think it's a good idea. The judicial system was created as a separate branch of government for a reason, for checks and balances. And so what do you want to do? You want to take the balance system out? No, that's not what it's all about. And I would hope that you would think twice about doing that, because that is the beginning of a takeover by either the county or the city of Las Cruces, and both of them would love to have us. And there's a rumor that the county is out there wanting to take over not only Mesilla, but all small municipalities that have their own fire departments, so they can help facilitate better service. Reality is, no, you're the head honcho, you get the grant money, you decide where to spend it, and let the little guys starve. No. So I think all of you have a duty to protect the interest of Mesilla, and by turning the generator or unplugging part of the generator that puts money back into the system to do the things that you have wanted to do or approved to do, be taken into consideration. Can we afford to give it away? Can we afford to put our authority outside of our own reach by using another judge out of another area that's not even familiar with what's going on here? We have a home elected judge that's supposed to know everything about our community and act for our community, but don't put him in a boxing ring with his hands chained behind his back and tell him, go at it, boy. Let him do his job. You do your job. Run your government the way your portion should be led, and let the judicial system deal with themselves. They don't need your help.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Other public comment?
Jerry Garcia, I've been here all my life and never seen anything like this. Never seen it. Your grandma fought the corruption here in Mesilla for years. And look what's going on right now. None of you haven't been as many years I've been here. And I got a business here in Mesilla. None of you. And it's terrible what's happening. Terrible. And I can remind you again, your grandma fought corruption here in Mesilla for years. For years. We know because she used to come to the house, talk to us what's going on. Now,
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Other public comment? Seeing as there is no other public comment, we'll move on to our next order of business. Under action and consideration, our first item is moved from the consent agenda, which is the BOT meeting minutes from June 23rd, 2025, from our regularly scheduled Board of Trustees meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. And the reason why I wanted to have this brought down on here is because if you recall at the last meeting, there was a call on a vote. So on page 6, line 33, for the motion to approve resolution 2025-40 for the setback adjustments. And with that, number 1, there is the typo on here that does need to be fixed because we have the roll call as Hernandez, yes, Pro Tem Merrick, yes, Cadena, no, Johnson Burek, no, and Trustee Nevadas is actually yes on there. So 3 yeses, 2 nos as the summary records. So that is a change that does need to be made into effect there. Now with this, the resolutions, in following up, because the question was if a resolution needed to have the majority of the board, It is voted on by a simple majority, and that was confirmed by the municipal league. So the vote and the motion does pass on that. It is only in specific cases that are noted where there is a supermajority on a resolution vote or an ordinance vote that would be needed, such as the ordinance that we will be hearing a little bit later today. That one does require a supermajority vote. So with that in mind, I'll open the floor to any questions.
Trustee Cadena voted yes. It wasn't trustee Nevares. She voted no on the subdivision.
Was that?
You're welcome. You're right.
So it was trustee Nevares that voted no?
Yes, yes.
Which,
On the setback,
Resolution.
for the setback, you
I don't
voted
think you-
no. You voted yes on the subdivision.
I was trying to remember.
Yeah, it was trustee Cadena.
Okay. We'll make the change and note on that one way or the other, and fix those minutes to reflect the 3 yeses, 2 no. We'll follow up on the recording and the video to make sure that that's reflected accurately. But that motion did pass on that. Are there any other questions or any other changes? Seeing as there is none, if I can have a motion to approve there's a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena, for the approval of the amended BOT minutes there. Gloria, if you could roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Nevares.
Yes.
Tim Merrick.
Yes.
The roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of those BOT meeting minutes from June 23rd as they have been amended. Next item on the agenda is acceptance of the MOJAC committee findings and recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevares. What we have here is following through with just as the original resolution as it's been shown in the packet 2025-30 with all the intents there of the establishment of the committee, the duties of the committee, what the committee was supposed to hear, and then including a report. The report from the committee is prepared showing who was present, all the dates that everything was put into effect, and then the final recommendation of the committee that was on June 17th when the committee met here at the Mesilla Town Hall boardroom, and the motion was moved and seconded that the committee recommend that it designate the Doña Ana County Magistrate Court as the court having jurisdiction over the Mesilla Town Code municipal ordinances. And then it is recorded in there how the motion was passed 5-1. One of the committee members was not present. And this is all pursuant with the requirements that are in State Statute 35-14-1 NMSA 1978. Are there questions? And this is for acceptance of the committee findings and recommendation.
I'm just, Mayor, going to comment, as I've already stated. I think there was a more appropriate way to address this if there were issues in the courts, or with the judge or the finances, establishing meetings, getting together. I don't think this was handled correctly, fairly. The judge was blindsided. I heard a lot, read a lot. If one of the problems is the Marshal's Department not being able to present their cases, I believe mention was made for the codes officer. If they can't present their cases here in our municipal court, how are they going to do it in magistrate court? And if any members of the public read the dialogue and the minutes or watched it on YouTube, I think it was very disrespectful to the judge. I don't think we have a plan following this. And have a few other things to say, but for now, that's all I want to mention. Thank you.
I went ahead and voted to do the committee because I really felt like it was a research committee, and it is part of the state statute that our size of town could possibly do that. But like I said from the beginning, I felt like it was really rushed, and 2-3 hour meetings where I read these transcripts and they're just all over the place. I'm sorry, they just are. I don't see anything truly coherent. I don't want to pass a resolution and figure out how to do it later. I think if we're going to do something this drastic, because I too cherish that we have our own jurisdiction here and we do have our own mayor and so forth, our own judge. So I'm very uncomfortable with the process. I'm very uncomfortable that it was 2 meetings, 3 hour meetings, and people just rambled. It seemed like that they weren't really something was going on, that people weren't listening to each other. They were just kind of bouncing their own opinions. And I appreciate that everybody that participated, because it was long and arduous, but I don't think it came up with the recommendations on solid footing, is my view of this whole thing. And so I cannot in any way say that I could vote for this resolution at this time.
Well, the resolution is not what we're talking about by any means. It's the acceptance of the recommendation from the MOJAC committee,
Okay,
from the
well,
committee itself.
but the recommendation is to go ahead and move it, right?
Correct.
I'm voting against the recommendation to move it at this time. I don't have, this is a discussion phase, and that's what my discussion is
Okay.
that there is no way that I could that I want this recommendation to go forward. I don't know if I'm not phrasing that correctly, but you get the message.
No, I think in a follow-up, I very well stated that was on my list because not all the documentation was received. I absolutely concur and agree with what you stated. I was concerned with the recommendation because then, and Mayor, with all due respect, at one point in the meeting, you stated that the Board of Trustees wants it to go, the court to go.
Where did I state that?
It's in the meeting. You can watch it. It was in the meeting,
Where did I state
in the
that?
first meeting. And then you followed up with, and I don't think that was appropriate. And I certainly, and I've been with.
Trustee Johnson, I'm just going to say one thing, is that the full reading of the minutes is in front of you and has been provided in your packet, and they were written verbatim. Can you please pull that out from those where it was said that I said that?
I'm taking my notes, and I
Okay.
watched it twice. And you said you wanted, the Board of Trustees wanted the courts to go. And I don't think that was appropriate. I think you want it to go, and then you followed up that statement by mentioning using the funding that we're going to save from legal fees for additional staffing and infrastructure.
No.
And I will gladly look for that in the verbatim minutes. as other trustees would like to comment.
So I attended both meetings, the entire meeting. That wasn't said. It's not, I think there's a lot of confusion about what's trying to happen. I didn't get that anybody was confused. The only person that I felt was confusing was the judge, because he would go back and forth. He blamed the marshal's department for the court not working correctly, and then took that back and said they're doing great. The two residents that we had up here are very well versed in how the court system works, and their biggest concern was that the judge seemed to be on not operating correctly. He did some things like saying that when people come up for a court case, that they have his personal number and that they can call him. And that if he knows their father, if someone comes up and they commit a crime and he knows their father, that he's able to kind of figure out what the best solution is. And then continued to say that he didn't believe in community service. The other part of that was our lawyers explained very well where the costs of our lawyers' fees are going, and that's to support the court. It's not our marshal's department. It's not them, anyone asking for help. It's not the board of trustees asking for legal help, other than torts claims. It was just conversations that he's had to help the court. So they broke it down. All the questions that were asked in the first meeting, where the money is going, can we see exactly who's spending the court fees? All of that got broken down to the committee. They got a sheet explaining exactly how much money was spent and where. As far as our budget, everything's explained. We get a monthly packet every month, and you can go through it and see exactly where the money is going. I think and to the point that we want to keep our town and not let anyone take over, yes, that's true. We couldn't function without a police department. If we got rid of the police department, we wouldn't have a town. However, the court, as I had said before, this conversation has come up at municipal leagues with other municipalities, because it's something that financially small municipalities cannot handle. And that's the option that they're giving us. It's not because we want to get rid of the court, we want to be unfair. It's to help small municipalities stay afloat so that Doniana and Las Cruces don't take over us. That's the goal. We don't want that to happen. A lot of the findings were given to the committee the second day, and it explained any questions that were asked, and it explained any discrepancies. So I think even if we were to continue this discussion later, the findings wouldn't change. And we don't have a better solution, and no one's come up with a better solution. So I don't see where we could solve that without really hurting the municipality as a whole. And as far as things that get approved financially, like today, a lot of that is grants and a lot of that is legislative money. That's not us spending money. That's putting money where we're supposed to, what we applied for. So even if we were to continue this discussion later, I don't think any of the findings are going to change. The facts were laid out.
Well, that's fine, Adrian. First of all, this cannot be a discussion about the performance of our current judge, because
Correct.
that's what you stated. You know, Pro Tem. So you can't make an argument based on something that's not even at stake here. Because if they're like Trustee Johnson said, if there's a problem in that area, then we need to fix it, not by eliminating it. So that is actually like not an argument for
No,
this.
I hear you.
And the other part of the argument, I mean, and I'm sorry, he said it was verbatim. There's places where it's inaudible. So, I mean, that's not verbatim. And what you just stated is not in this documentation. So not every question was answered. We didn't get the paperwork that shows all the numbers. So we're just going to go.
Trustee, that I'm sorry, but that is in your packet.
I saw the packet and I saw the numbers, but it doesn't answer every single question that other people, members of the public that were part of the committee were asking. And maybe, you know, lawyers are smarter than us regular people, which they are usually, especially about the law, that's their job. But we, you know, I didn't get a coherent kind of explanation that supported this resolution. So that's my view. And you can't make an argument for something that isn't even valid to go with, to get rid of this situation. I mean, to move this to the magistrate court. So even that doesn't, you know, it doesn't float for me at all.
Trustee Nevares.
I guess this is just for the acceptance of the recommendation, right?
Yes, it is.
But one of the things that I guess one of the things that was never discussed, it was discussed about magistrate court, was that they are not requiring a JD for magistrates. Is that correct? I recall. They require a JD for magistrates
Yes, they do.
at this point. And
Municipal court does not.
not. Really, the only requirement or qualification is that they be a resident of Mesilla.
That's how Las
But-
Cruces-
But again, I mean, should there be consideration for asking that another qualification be a JD? It's just, I think the lawyers kind of express it. There's a lot of complexities and nuances in court cases nowadays. So it really takes somebody that probably have training in the legal system, but I don't know. That's just a thought. I mean,
Well, I think one of the residents brought that up, but I have, in the history of Mesilla and also in Las Cruces and a lot of other municipalities, the municipal court does not require people to be attorneys to be, you know, I know that for a fact because I've had friends serve and they were not lawyers. So we're not the only place that does that. But if we wanted to add that in our small little community, that the judge had to be a attorney, well, then we can discuss that. But that's it's a totally separate issue than what we're discussing right now. Because right now, all we should be looking at is the state statute said we could do this, right? We could give up our whatever you call it, our judge, and send those things to the magistrate court. That's what the question is right now. Do these documents in front of us support that? In my view, it does not. And that to me is the only question. If we have problems right now, we can figure out how to fix them as representatives of the town, of the citizens of Mesilla, but all the citizens, right? Not the few that are here or not the few that have a vested interest or whatever at this particular moment. So I just don't feel, I mean, I just feel like we're, like you're, like in some ways the rationale is outside of what you're asking us to, what we should be deciding on.
just as a follow-up, what would be the course of action that, you know, to solve problems? I mean, what do you foresee as a process for that?
I mean, that's the thing. We could, are you asking me or the mayor?
Well, you're the one, no, you brought it up.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know, we can get, I mean, the mayor is the CEO, he runs the government at this point. If he, I mean, that would be his duty to do that. I mean, to try to get that resolved and bring us in as needed, or again, form a committee to figure that out, or whatever the case may be. But there'd be a lot of ways to fix problems in any municipality, but we don't want to fix a problem that doesn't. I'm not going to fix a problem if there's a problem going on right now with the judge that we have and the way he's handling things, I don't want to solve it with this issue, in this way at all. To me, that's doing potential damage to this town.
And I just want to make a comment on that, because I keep hearing that we're defaulting to there being error with the judge and his performance. That is not what's being discussed or what was discussed. Was it brought up? Yes, at one point, and that was because that was forced out to that extent. I think that it's important when you look at the second meeting on page 124, line 32 in specific, and if you'll turn to that page with me right now, because we did have one of the members of the committee on page 124, line 32, where Ms. Ellis in particular asked the committee to provide pros and cons on those specifics of what was being on what it was. You specifically see where Ms. Ellis says she's trying to wrap her hands around this on how much money we're talking about saving. You know, if we're talking about saving $10,000, that's probably not even worth everything that we're spending energy to think about this. If we're talking about saving, you know, most of $168,000 plus most of the costs of the public defender plus some of the court budget fees, then we're talking a pretty substantial dollars. And when I look at the positives, and thank you, I don't think I have anything else. You can stand back up, but if you have something else, I see potentially fairly largely for the municipality with a fairly large cost savings. When you look at those three sources of potential reductions in costs, and the course those cost savings are greater if you send all of it to the municipal court or magistrate court, sorry. Once you decide you're going to keep the court for any purpose, then a lot of those expenses related to your court stay. But again, we'd still have the savings of the attorney's fees, the public defender's fees. So costs are definitely one of those aspects of it. So just in that she's explaining that the decision, which was the decision of the committee and the recommendation, was not based upon the performance, because just as it was noted throughout, and even in the numbers that were provided by myself during my testimony and everything that was said, the court is running its budget, and you can see that it's running its budget. There is nothing wrong with the court running its budget by any means in that information, and that is not what is being questioned at that. It's the fact that at the end of the day, when we have the potential of saving at least $87,000 minimum for that court budget, number one, when those criminal cases that are primarily heard in the court, because what we did hear from the judge in particular is where he said that he had only heard 2 codes related specific cases since the beginning of this year. So with that in note, we're paying $86,000 for 2 codes cases a year ultimately. Because already our criminal cases can already be transferred and heard within magistrate court, as it was discussed throughout this whole thing, or and throughout the whole committee hearing when we were going through all of the paperwork and all of that information. And so it's looking at the top line numbers, the bottom line numbers, the fact that the town does not receive any funding from any of the citations that are being given on any of these. And we shouldn't necessarily be looking at how that is money to to do that, but that affects the general fund budget as a whole. So that budget 10 on there, which you are all aware of. When you look at that overall recap that I provided to you in this, that was provided to the committee, it's taking all of the past 10 years worth of numbers. The top line numbers are really the numbers that you're looking at, the savings. The bottom line numbers are all intrinsic costs that happen that will be absorbed by the magistrate court or the district court. So we lose all of those costs as well, revenues and expenses. It's just it's the top line money that would be saved at the end of the day. So you look at in here for our current, I mean, there could be the potential savings of $222,000 that would be coming back to the town to be used however it may need to be. And Trustee Johnson Burek, I think that was maybe what you were getting at into what I had said, or anticipating what I had said. Because I do recall one of the questions that was asked by one of the committee members was, if there's a surplus of funds, how is that funding going to be used? And that is specifically where I said that funding, if there is a surplus, would depend upon where the Board of Trustees would want that money to be reallocated. And that reallocation could be into other jobs. It could be into other positions. It could be into other projects. And I think that is specifically where you're thinking that I said that I'm the one that's pushing this and I'm the one that's doing that. That is not the case. If this does move that way, that would be money that would be reallocated into other projects and into whatever you as the board want that to be. That's what it is. So at the end of the day, it really is truly simple. It's the numbers, at least in my mind. We either pay the cost out of our own budget that can be already absorbed by another entity's budget to hear the cases that are being heard already by them, that would be no cost to us, or we continue business as is and we continue running this out of our own budget and not saving money. And this is only, I have to look at it, as I mentioned to the committee, is I have to look at it from the CEO standpoint, just as you've said, and where are we going to save money? Where can we get this going? It's not that we don't need the court or we don't need these cases to be heard. It's where are we going to save money at the end of the day? How can we get this taken care of? Is there a different way of looking at this? And that's what is proposed to you right now. And that is the recommendation that came from the board. Specifically, was the recommendation based upon that we can save hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially at the end of the day.
Right.
Now, the other part of that discussion, which you'll note that is in that second meeting as well, in reading through the minutes, is the discussion of our municipal codes and those being heard. And that was part of a discussion that was anticipated to be next. But I mean, we're fully discussing a lot of information right now. But I think that's where that comes in, where in the notation that our municipal codes, as far as it pertains to our historic inventory and our building codes, as well as nuisances, abatement, whatever the case may be, specifically for those types of codes, citations would still be heard potentially through a different process here in the town. And we would still have that case there. I think that's important to note. And we would review whatever avenues that is and look at that. That's what we're looking at. And that's the recommendation at the end of the day, to still hear those codes cases within the town, send all of our criminal cases to magistrate, or any of those cases that can be heard within magistrate by the magistrate court, by the district attorney's office, whoever that may be. That's where we're at. And that's what this is. That's the recommendation that is truly in front of you at this moment.
So I just want to clarify. I wasn't trying to bring up personnel. The personnel issues were brought up solely by the judge. No one talked about personnel issues other than him. What I was trying to say as in a whole is what happened But like I was saying earlier, at the end of the day, the numbers don't change. The facts that we have in front of us don't change. It's like the mayor said, if we potentially save that money or we don't, either way, the last 5 years, we've been in the red for the court. So it's been a different judge, well, past a lot longer than that. It's been a different judge. So even if it wasn't this judge, we were still having the same issue. When the question got asked about where it would go, they only asked that, I know Miss Alice asked that because she just wanted to know if that would change our overall budget that the town got. If that budget would eventually go down and that what we were getting for the courts would be completely eliminated, or would we still receive the same budget? So again, I apologize for bringing up the personnel issues. That's not the direction I was going.
I think that I also want to note that on personnel issues, if you believe that there's personnel issues and that the departments aren't working to the degree that they need to be working or completing the job that they need to be completing, that's for me to take care of. That is my job, correct? And I think that when we look at this as a whole and you talk about this, you're talking, and just as it was brought up, we're talking about 3 different branches that are here: the judicial branch, the executive branch, the legislative branch. Each one operates independently as they are. I have no control over you. I have no control over the judicial branch. That is by those respective people that have been elected duly to those offices. So I manage the town and I manage the town budget as well as the town employees as they are. So if there's an issue with the town and operations, that's for me to take care of. And I will take care of that. You can point them out to me and any deficiencies, and I will take care of that. Or I'll look into it, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, you also need to recognize that, just as you know, because we receive some of these things in our packets, under the executive and legislative branch in our budget specifically is all of the court costs. And the court costs that are in there are the court attorney's fees when I'm talking about the court costs and those that are associated with that. So those court attorney's fees are underneath me and my responsibility, but yet I don't have the control to say, you're spending too much, you're doing too much. There is no way or leverage for me to do that. That is solely at the judge's hand to take care of that, because that is his budget and his items and the way that cases are heard within his court. That is his realm as a judicial branch. So something that's underneath my budget that I'm responsible for, that he's also responsible for, but not held to the same accountability as me. I think that's what we're looking at as well, is the overall cost and what happens with the general fund and the money that we spend out of the general fund. Is that total for the budget? And that, I mean, we have the budget and what those budget expenditures are: $87,000 or $87,000 for the court budget. We have, at the end of the day, this last year, $168,000 in the budget for attorney's fees that were paid out of that. And that's just the court's attorney's fees. That's not the other fees that we pay for general matters that are under general matters that go towards other claims and instances that we need our attorneys to help take care of the town. So at the top of the line, that's ultimately for this past year, what you're looking at, that total savings. And I wouldn't even call it a savings. It's just $86,000, $168,000 that could have been heard in magistrate court at the end of the day. That's what it is. So. And that was the recommendation by the committee. Nothing with personnel.
Called a question.
The motion is on the floor for the acceptance of the Mojack Committee findings and recommendation. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevadas. The question has been called. And seeing as there is no other discussion and the question has been there, this is for acceptance. Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Trustee Nevadas.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
No.
Trustee Cadena.
No.
Mayor Hernandez.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 3 yeses and 2 noes.
Okay, that is for the acceptance of the Mojack Committee findings and recommendations. So that is duly accepted on that. Next item on the agenda is discussion of code updates and code hearing examiner. In your packet, what I have included on page 135 is an example of the town of Edgewood and what the town of Edgewood has incorporated as what is a codes hearing examiner, and in specific, how codes are specifically heard within the municipality as far as it pertains to any of the codes violations, and then the hearing process of that is gone through a hearing examiner, which you can see on page 141 and how that relates to that. This was a recommendation from that actually came from a meeting that the Planning and Zoning Commission and Community Development attended. And in this, where the town of Edgewood provided this information on this ordinance and what this ordinance does and how those specific codes. So if we did look at the possibility of having the court heard or cases heard within the municipality, this would be the option to get that taken care of, so that we're still hearing our codes cases here within the municipality. We can also look at any other type of option that may be available in that.
So for clarification, so for the savings that you have mentioned, you're bringing this up for discussion so that we would pay for a position for a hearing officer.
It would be a contract position potentially. And with that, just as the judge had noted, during this committee process, there were only 2 specific codes cases that he had heard since January. So if that's the case, and if we were to follow that trend, which I hope we wouldn't necessarily, but if we were to follow that trend, yeah, that's what our contract, if we had that, we could, however that would be negotiated on that, would be heard as that. That is the potential.
And why couldn't we have them stay with our court?
If we do a contract agreement for, I'm just, whatever the amount may be for the hourly rate that would be for a hearing examiner, I don't even know what that would be. But it would be the hourly rate for that would be determined upon a contractual basis that's approved by the Board of Trustees in whatever amount that could be. It could be $5,000 to say whatever. And then that versus the full cost of $85,000 minimum to have the court open and to have the court hearing. So the minimal cost versus the maximum cost. That's what we have at the end of the day when we're looking at that. Codes would still be heard potentially within the town as that. It's just we pay minimum and still have the codes heard, or we pay the maximum, still have the codes heard, but we're ultimately paying a maximum price. Does that make sense?
Yes. And again, in correction, it was what I interpreted was in the second meeting from you, Mr. Mayor. In the first meeting, I think it was either and I'm concerned, I do not want our zoning cases sent to magistrate because I think it was either Mr. Young or Mr. Cabela that stated in the first meeting that, and I'm trying to find that as well in the minutes, to keep the weed and codes in municipal court, our court, because we have a very complicated zoning network, and that mentioned that the zoning ordinance can still be with the town. So we're already, in my opinion, having issues with planning and zoning, case in point, wanting to establish, and as well as some of the members of the board wanting to establish a commercial business and a rural farm that is not allowed for zoning for that purpose. The subdivision of Kiki Villahill's property, wanting to build homes for his family members who just sold the property. So I'm concerned with, again, and I'll bring this up, the setbacks, more authority being given to planning and zoning. And so I have a concern that if we send these cases to magistrate, we're going to lose out more on our, we're going to compromise the historical integrity of this community. So I would like them to stay with us, with someone who is well-versed
And
on our ordinances.
Trustee, that's why I opened up this discussion, and I wanted to have this discussion because that's exactly what came out of the recommendation from the committee, was that these cases still be heard within the town. And that is the important part there. And that's why I'm bringing the thought of a codes hearing examiner and what that is, because that is where we would still retain those codes cases within the town and still pay for that out of our operating budget that we have here. It would just be out of attorney's fees or a set budget that's set to the side on that for the codes cases that are being heard here in the town. It would be those criminal offenses that would be sent off to be heard to magistrate court, so that we are not hearing those cases here in the town any longer. So those cases would still be heard and that being all of our zoning, all of our, anything that would be weeds, painting, whatever those are that are specific to our historic residential or codes, or even residential for rural farm, any of those zonings, that would all be handled within house still. And that would be, and that would include, as you see in this ordinance that is from Edgewood here, there's even the clauses in there how appeals are heard and within their community and how they take care of appeals. So all of that information to keep that here and the integrity for the codes that have already been established for the integrity of what it is would stay here. They don't go to magistrate court and would not be heard in magistrate court. They would just be heard by a different individual rather than the municipal court at the end of the day. And that's a potential. That's one direction, because there's other options that are out there. And I think that at the end of the day, in this discussion of what that is, and when we're looking at that and the potential of what that looks like, is that there's time between now, if this moves forward as that, and it is heard as and accepted, that we move forward with that to have the cost savings here. The next step on that would be for everything to be, we still would need to get the Supreme Court approval on this. But in the meantime, it gives the direction for myself as well as the staff to work on ordinance updates that directly reflect the potential of a hearing examiner or having those cases continually heard no matter what here in town, however that may be. They could be heard by our own attorney, or we probably wouldn't want that because naturally if it gets appealed, they would be here, have to represent the case, but it could be a second attorney made it to, or it could still be the current judge that is on, along with other individuals that have the background and the experience with the codes within our own town that would still be assigned as a hearing examiner to hear this. It's just in a different capacity of doing that. So you would help get that code written for that and decide how that is specifically heard, the cost of that, how that would work out, and at the end of the day. Plus any other code updates that we might need. And I do want to point out that we're constantly talking about updating our codes, and because our codes need to have the updates because we have a lot of conflicting, where are we going to get the money? Just as we said before, as the CEO of this municipality, it is my job to try to figure out where we're going to get the money to do that. Instead of, we keep the attorney's fees budget in here as a total and we continually budget that, but now we're redirecting our attorneys to actually work on potential code updates. Maybe that's a possibility following your direction of something that we could look into as a possibility for updating our codes in a more effective and efficient, cost-saving manner to get this taken care of. And there's options is what I'm getting at in everything. And it's an idea out there. And this is something that, like I say, is, and like I've said before, is with state statute and how state statute applies.
Right. And Mr. Mayor, I mean, I know it seems to me like we're all somewhat emotional about that and about a lot about this whole issue, you know, because I feel like, and I didn't mean to be offensive by bringing up. So, but I also think that that's fine. I mean, I see, you know, I think we get it that there was already you know, that the code, I mean, I read and listened and read again, but I was also gone all weekend and out of phone range actually, so I couldn't even read the notes. And we're getting this, you know, on Friday, and I've made this personal comment to you, but I'm making it here now, is that really to see everything and put everything together and have this packet for a couple of days with this much dialogue and this much explanation and all those things, I don't feel like I could, you know, I'm listening to you, but I don't feel like I can do justice to the situation with, you know, today, me and just listening to the meetings. And I'm sorry, but it may have been clear to you and you're saying that it's verbatim, but when I listened to those meetings, it was a lot of things that people were asking, questions weren't being really answered. You know, I don't see clearly that we could save $168,000. Plus, we also, you know, don't have a plan for the other stuff. And I'm sorry, I mean, whatever Mr. DiMatteo's issues are or are not, I mean, I don't mind having a judge saying to a kid, you know, your cost, you know, you got a speeding ticket out here for going, you know, 25 miles over the speed limit. You're going to cost your parents, you know, hundreds of dollars a month. Cool it. We're going to write this off. Magistrate court's not going to do that, right? So I don't even mind having that homey thing. I'm not saying that that the other things that the attorneys were concerned about is not valid or anything, but in general, I don't feel like I've had enough time to digest this all, that I've had enough time to fairly evaluate it on the basis of me speaking to other people based on what I'm reading here, maybe even some of the people that were there, even though we turned it over to a committee. I appreciate that, and I appreciate that we had a committee and such a highly skilled committee, but I still don't see the numbers coming. I mean, I still don't see the numbers clearly like that. And I don't mind. And it's true that we did fight for our own judge and stuff years ago. And you know, we did that for a reason. So that's what I'm asking, I guess, too, is that we just really reconsider that 3 days of having this sent to us by email, picking them up whenever. You guys are open, right? We either get here on Friday or we do it on Monday morning if we are in town. So what I'm saying is I may not have given this a complete fair assessment. And that again compels me to say I'm not okay with it, because I don't feel like I can fairly represent the residents without having a complete understanding of everything I'm reading here. And I did hear the meetings, and there was a lot of back and forth stuff that just didn't, wasn't as coherent as you are explaining it right now. And I still don't know, because how do we pass this and then have another plan, right? Why can't we just have the whole plan? Like, how are we going to handle the municipal codes exactly, and how much is it going to take? I mean, I know that, so, I don't mean to be, argumentative or get people defensive or feel like this is in any way an incompetent way of doing it, because that's not what I meant to say. But I'm not, I just don't feel like you're making your case, and it's really hard for me to even sort through all this in 3 days. And I've had that issue before, that I think we should get it a week ahead of time, 6 days ahead of time, whatever it takes, because this is a lot of, we have a lot of responsibility. And I do feel like there has been times when I'm just so hurried through the material and that I'm not doing justice to it. I'm not able to do everything, to be as thorough as I would like to be. And I mean, it disappoints me right now just hearing Trustee Johnson say that the property that we had, 10 hearings for, 10 was sold, when it was said to be a family plot. I mean, those kinds of things, we have to be reflective about that. We were told by the attorneys, well, this is, it's precedence, and, it's an outlier that he's still an RF or an RA, whatever he was. And here we are faced with, he sold a property now as an R1 when he was begging us to approve him. And I know that's off topic, but I'm just saying things like this happen when we're rushed and we're not able to collaborate with other residents and other people and even members of the committee and see what they, what really, I mean, to clarify some of the language in this. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm done. It's just because, I mean, Mayor, really, I feel like you were kind of a little bit, I mean, I appreciate your leadership. I do. But, I kind of feel like you scolded us a little bit, right now. And I don't really.
Well, then I apologize.
I don't really appreciate that. But I accept, and I just wish that I just hope I didn't sound like that, and I get it, and it's frustrating because you've worked really hard on this, and the committee did too. But I'm just stating my case.
Trustee Nevadas.
The discussions on the court's hearing examiner position. So this is going to be a contract, or anticipate to be a contract position. So we're going to set the qualifications and the background of the person that would be considered for such a position. Who, one of the qualifications is that they be well versed in subject matter and also well versed on MISIA, on the ordinance of MISIA. But that's all the comment I had. It's just, if you go down that road.
And see, I mean, Jerry, even we can anticipate issues with that because, yeah, we want them to be but we also want them to be very, very neutral, very, fair. So what does that even look like? You know what I mean? For somebody to be completely fair, because we're not being fair. We're representing residents. We have our own opinions. it would be hard to find somebody that is well-versed in Messiah code and well-versed in all these things, and then do fairness, which is the concern of John, his John, Trustee Johnson, is that, then how does that get done fairly? When we have a contractor or employee, I mean, what if they always go with Eddie's recommendation? Because they're actually contracted by the town of Messiah. So, I mean, I don't totally feel like that might be the solution. I appreciate that there was a solution presented in this paperwork. But that in and of itself brings up issues for me. That then he is an employee of the legislative branch, which is the CEO, and why would he be fair necessary? He or she, excuse me, I don't want to be sexist. I mean, just saying that. I mean, just bringing that up as a possibility. Like, who would be that person that is totally, anyway, you get my message.
Trustee?
No, I hear what you're saying about fairness, but the issue is that there are hearing officers in other organizations dealing with personnel matters and different things.
I get it.
And one of the things is that we have to set the standards as to
Yes.
what hopefully the contractor's going to be taking the information before them and making a fair decision.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been around too. I'm in private and public organizations, and I know that is something. But again, we're a very small town, and there is something to be said for 3 branches of government. We're the legislature. He's the mayor, and then there's the judicial side. But anyway, I get that things work in different ways. But there's potential problems in any solution too. And spending money.
Any other discussion on the codes, of code updates, or the potential of a codes hearing examiner, or any other thoughts on that as far as it pertains to municipal town code? No? Okay. Next item on the agenda is approval of ordinance 2025-01 for the Doñana County Magistrate Court jurisdiction designation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevadas. We'll open it up for discussion.
Is there any way we can postpone this so everybody can get the information they need, or do we need to sit with the committee as a board of trustees and talk with them, or I don't know how that would work, but I would say postpone until everyone can get all the information we need to make a better decision.
Motion on the floor to postpone to fully review in more detail, as well as get more information if needed.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Nevadas for postponement. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Gloria, if you would roll call votes on the motion to postpone.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek,
Yes.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
Trustee Nevadas,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
That one does require me to vote as well.
I'm sorry.
So,
Mayor Hernandez,
yes,
Mayor, the roll call is 5 yes.
thank you. Because this does require a supermajority vote on this decision to be made, which means that it is required of the 3/4 of the full board to vote on this. With that in mind, and with the postponement of ordinance 2025-01. We'll bring that back at the next regularly scheduled meeting. But what I would recommend to the board is please review your packets as they've been presented. If you have information that you still have questions on, please reach out to Gloria to provide you any type of documentation. One thing that I will ask you is there was a full packet that was prepared, including all of the budgets and information that was given to the MOJAC committee. Would you like me to have copies of that sent to you personally?
Yes.
That would be great.
Absolutely.
So we'll get that. So be expecting that within the next day or two as well. And trust me, there's a lot of information in there. And I'll include, what I will do is I'll include in there as well, and I'll try to organize it as best as possible for you with the help of Gloria and the team to include the information that's in here and have that lined out for you, just as I did for the committee. Next item up on the agenda is discussion and approval of Resolution 2546 for the 27-2031 ICIP.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. Now, I want to bring this because it was asked a little bit earlier in here in the meeting during public comment about the ICIP. So this is the specific resolution for the ICIP as it is. You all did approve this back in the capital listing back in May at one of those meetings there. So this is just the formalization in the resolution. I did, though, want to potentially add a couple more items on to the ICIP. So that's what I have for you. So there are those that are lined up on there. And in that, I want to give those explanations on here. So what you have on your ICIP is the designation. If you recall, the way that this works is those items in that we have funded to date that still have funding that we're going after are still on there. Those items that have not been funded and that we're seeking funding are already there. Those items that are what you see in 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. Those items that are that have been fully funded to date are dropped off of this list, so you no longer see them there. So just as the last time when we approved it, it didn't have the reorganization of the priorities on there. So as you see, the priorities that we have here for our upcoming session and priorities are number one priority, because we'll look at the first four priorities. So we're looking at the number one priority being a historic inventory update. The second being the fire department SEBA packs. The third being the visitor center upgrades. The fourth being security access control upgrades for facilities. And then the rest are items that we would potentially go after through grant funding throughout different grants that are available through the state. The one that I would ask that we are able to add on here is noted in one of the items is noted in item number 12 under the 2027. It's for you. It says University Trail, and it should have enhancements that's there. In 2027, we would be asking for the potential or seeking funding for the potential of reviewing University Trail enhancements, just as it's come from public feedback in the potential that we've had in several of our meetings in looking at what enhancements could be as far as it goes with barriers or other infrastructure that's not included within our current project. Not our project, that is not included within DOT's current project for the university project, Avenue project in from Avenida de Mesilla to Main Street. Excuse me. One of the other items in here in discussion with the team is on the second page, item number 9. And this would be for 2028 request is for UTV and storage purchase. That would be for the Public Works Department in specific to help with maintenance and weed abatement and control. Also helping with events when necessary. On that, that was a request that wasn't in there to begin with. And then the last one to be added in here, similar to the first one that I discussed, at the bottom of the page, item number 4 is the planning and design for Calle de Sur trail enhancements. In having our meeting with DOT that we had when we had our specific meeting with them about DOT projects and everything to that extent. I was asking them what it would take for us to have benches, trash cans, and other maybe even potential foliage or whatever the case may be to go down the Calle de Norte, or sorry, not Calle de Sur. It should be Calle de Norte trail enhancements. I apologize on that. So that, yeah, it's Calle de Norte, not Sur. I apologize on that. So if you all do approve, I'll get Brianna to change that on that there. But in talking with DOT, we need to have the full planning completed for even a single bench to go out into that whole area, however that may be. So this would go through, all of these would go through public process in determining what enhancements would be within those areas as those potentials there. And all the other items were items that were already on the list, that were on the ICIP list, just as we had discussed before. They were just reorganized. Are there any questions? Seeing as there are no questions, with the motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena, for the approval of Resolution 2025-46. Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr?
Yes.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of Resolution 2025-46 for our capital infrastructure planning list. Next item on the agenda is approval of Resolution 2025-42 for our capital asset certification.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. I will open it up for discussion. And this is just part of our yearly requirements with DFA to list all of our capital inventory and have it certified. And this is presently what we have on hand. And we will be bringing forward another disposal list to you in the near future, or request for disposal. I will note that. Are there any questions?
No, I just want to say how grateful I am to see something. I mean, I know you worked hard on it since day one, and all the departments have too. So that's great, and thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you, Trustee Cadena. Are there any other comments or discussion? Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick?
Yes.
Trustee Cadena?
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burr?
Yes.
Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of our Resolution 2025-42 for capital asset certification. Next item on the agenda is approval of Resolution 2025-45 for authorized officers and agents.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. And I will open the floor for discussion. This is just the just for clarification on this and what this is. This is, we have a water project that we've received funding for that you all had us apply for in here, or accepted the application on that. that we're moving forward to. This is just designating myself as the primary for the grant assignment, as well as Brianna serving and Gloria serving as the deputies and the fiscal agents on that. Is there any other questions or discussion? Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Thank you very much for approval of Resolution 2025-45 for authorized officers and agents. Next item on the agenda is approval of 2025-26 Wildlife Services Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. This agreement is the agreement that we have as it's noted here, for wildlife services, where other agencies come in to help out with wildlife management, so removal of any pests that cannot be taken care of, or other wildlife that cannot be taken care of by our codes department that may cause a damage or threat to property as it is noted. And if there are no questions, motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great. Thank you very much for approval of our 2025-26 Wildlife Services Agreement. Next item on the agenda is approval of the SCOG service agreement, which is their resolution, not our resolution, on there, and that's for our participation in the South Central Council of Governments.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena, and I will open it up for discussion, if any. Seeing as there is none, Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great. Thank you very much for approval of our South Central Council of Governments Agreement, as it's been noted. The next item on the agenda is approval of P&Z Commission for the open seat of appointment. The board action form was on the desk for you upon your arrival.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek, and I will open it up for discussion. I will start off with that to address the comments that were asked during the public comments. Number one, just trustees and members of the public, if you recall from our last time that we had an appointed member to the board, we had noted that there were 3 applicants that had put in to be a member of the Planning and Zone, or to be members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And with that in mind, all 3 applicants were great candidates. Only 2 of them were accepted because there were only 2 open spots. 1 was still left open. And we did note that in that meeting, that's because all applicants had a great background, that we would actually be moving forward that applicant potentially within the next opening that was available. So that's exactly what you have in front of you this evening, is with that open call there, or a position that we had open. So we did have our vice chair, Ms. Christina Alba, who did take a job in a different community and unfortunately had to move away. She vacated her position in there, so it did open up a position within the Planning and Zoning Commission. So what you have in front of you is the approval of Miss Mary Lucero to be joining the Planning and Zoning Commission as for an open seat that is one of the 7 board members. Is there any questions? Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Johnson Burek. Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick.
Yes.
Trustee Cadena.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
Yes.
Trustee Nevares.
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great. Thank you very much for approval of the open seat appointment for Planning and Zoning Commission. Next item on the agenda is approval of our P and Z board with the 2 alternates. So it's just a formalization of the board, moving one of the current alternates that was in there onto the board itself, and then having the 2 alternates noted there. That was provided in your packet in the next meeting, because the member that did step off of the board was the vice chair. Planning and Zoning will need to be doing the election of a new officer for their vice chair position. But that is the slate that you have in front of you as recommended for that board. I can have a motion for approval, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, seconded by Trustee Cadena. So I give detail before calling on that. Sorry about that. Any questions? Seeing as there are none, Gloria, if you can roll call vote, please.
Trustee Cadena,
Yes.
trustee Nevares,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Merrick,
Yes.
trustee Johnson Beer,
Yes.
Mayor, the roll call is 4 yes.
Great. Thank you very much for approval of that slate for our P and Z board with the 2 alternates. That does move Ms. Rosemary Aviar onto the Planning and Zoning Commission to serve on there, and then we'll have Ms. Stevie Paz and Ms. Mary Lucero serving as the alternates on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Next item on the agenda is a closed executive session for discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to MSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H2 concerning the fire department, as well as a discussion concerning attorney-client privilege matters pertaining to threatened or pending pending litigation in which the public body is or may become a participant pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H7 for the Marshal's Department. I can have a motion to exit our regularly scheduled meeting to go into closed executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor by Trustee Nevares, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick, and the motion will carry with unanimous consent unless there's discussion or objection.
Sorry.
And the time is now 6:49, and we will be retiring to executive closed session.
Thank you so much. Yeah. You're lucky there. I'm gonna take off. My name's Noah. Walgreens on the cost closes 6 o'clock.
They don't want to do this whenever you're next.
Well, I'm really looking at that. You know, it's under. Yeah.
And it's good. I know. When I went yeah. I mean, it's a turkey. And they said,
Especially with.
yeah. How are you? Yeah. So, yeah. She just showed.
I need a mozzarella.
So she's like, I can't go. When did you get it?
Saturday, I got to
She's like, no. Send her call.
I guess so, yeah. It's like
I'm going to get
so yeah, that's my name.
Still running the store. Still running the store.
I don't actually.
Forgot something out. So take care. They need to hold court. Why do you need so.
I got you going.
Okay.
Well, it's still in the middle.
See you in person.
Yeah, and I'd like to talk to you next time that you
Let's go.
So, right,
Right? Right?
But.
Right, because that's what I was thinking. I figured it was somebody else.
And if it comes back,
And
just
so
one time, one time infection. Why would you?
And I didn't, I don't look at the X-ray myself.
you know, this is not.
I guess I have one.
They
On the portion of the thing.
How do you do that?
I didn't really understand that.
Point somebody that he's going
No, we didn't call that. He said,
to hear.
this one's
A little bit
okay.
crowded, but it-
Oh, I just-
but it's because it's crowded, pretty crowded.
Yeah.
They come and tell the other resident. She said it was changed.
Let me read, let me give you on Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm on the tomorrow.
Yeah.
Saturday.
Really appreciate you.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah, and they can tell that, other person did it about these days. I wasn't heard of it.
Y'all have your own thing, right?
That was great. Hey, I'm super excited. I'm reading that. So you had one to cricket?
Oh, you get, oh, did he?
You do.
Yeah.
Oh, you told me to charge all the time. I mean, it charges the same one. No, you have the.
He says-
Solar on top. I don't
He
have
says he
solar.
charges it on weekends, but
Yeah.
it says 24 days of battery life on it.
Also, they want you to wait.
Side out
that.
Wanting something different and save me from. Richard,
You know, and then I've got a question is, why
did you crack up with that video I sent you?
That was hilarious. I was gonna say, I was to grant him, I'm sure he would. Just send it to him.
Oh, yeah, I send all these things.
I figured.
Usually you, Greg, and Cole
Yeah.
separately.
And so.
Sometimes I mess up, don't
I
get
saw,
out.
I saw, right, console.
So they cannot.
She's the eyes.
I'm serious, and that's what I want to talk to this guy about, because that's.
To be technical.
Huh?
The only time he can do from the office. The only time he comes out, comes over here, sit there.
This work.
Are you talking about the guy from
The
the
market.
market?
No, what kind of work? I thought you were talking about the market.
Oh, no, I don't care about the market. His ass is coming home, it's gonna go on the burn.
The judge.
Who was one?
Diana?
They judge.
No. The judge, the judge.
Yeah.
And someone called me.
She's treating, see, nothing.
I think it's your, that's the matter.
Just like.
That was in there, I wasn't. What did you do? What did you do? She asked, what did you do?
I don't know, I was so pissed off, I wasn't able to go here. You know, that ain't just not, no, you know, here, and I'm gonna find out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's. And he is already sleeping with the pastor, who's the head of the county commission. You know, and with that, I wanna know whether the county can take on the town of Mesilla jurisdiction. Because as far as I know, I've had some calls today, and nobody knows about.
I think I see it on.
Yeah.
She was on.
She's a what?
She was sent for you.
What?
She was sent for you
She was sent over here
to find out.
by, who is she?
She's from the magistrate,
What?
the magistrate court.
The magistrate court.
She was sent for you for that.
Well, probably so, because I've had some, calls in, I wanted to know whether the head of the magistrate court was aware of the caseload they were gonna take, whether they had decide who needs it instead of the community that sets their own agenda. You know, we've hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, for our equipment for a while, you know, like,
I was getting ready for a
Will you put that in on the just a little bit. Presentation.
Seven, we did all that.
Well, we started at
Oh, that's right. Wait,
time they would, that would take an hour.
Hold on, hold everything.
Yeah. Right now.
The time is now 6:59. We are returning from executive closed session that concerned limited personnel matters pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-H2 for the fire department and discussion for attorney-client privilege information for NMSA 1978, Section 15-H7 for the marshal's department, only discussing those items as noted. And if I can have a motion to return to our regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Motion on the floor by trustee Cadena, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Merrick. And if there is not any discussion or objection, the motion will carry, and we will re-enter our regularly scheduled meeting. The time is now 7 o'clock, and we are back into our regularly scheduled meeting. The next item on the agenda is any actions that may arise as a result of a closed executive session, and there are none. So we'll move on to the next item, which is public input, where the public is invited to come to the board to address the board as necessary. If you have more information, please do. State your name for the record.
First, I went first, I sent. Veronica Garcia. Mayor Pro Tem, you said that numbers don't change. I challenge you on something. You get the numbers from Miss Gloria, you get the numbers from Ramona, and tell me if they don't change. From the last time since you've been here, you and I both know numbers do change. We've sit in your house before and going through them. So I challenge you on it. Don't pick 1, 2, 3 days, go through the months and pull them both. And tell me the numbers don't change. Pull up the budgets. $1,000. Did we ever get a response of what happened to that $1,000 in a training? You know, why did it come out of the court? You were here for that meeting. You were here for that meeting. Came out of the courts. When I asked the marshal, it wasn't his. So I would love to see you pull out both numbers and sit with both people and see. I love to see that. You know, once again, the tinting windows, you guys already had them done again. Did you see how ugly they are? They're not even all the way to the thing. They're like cracked and everything. Just go right here and look at them. What? You guys can find $9,000 for tinting windows, but you can't put cameras inside the town hall to protect the residents or your staff. I like to call those windows peeping toms. You can see outside, but you can't see in. I like to call them peeping toms. Why don't we find money to protect the residents and your staff? Get cameras. That was a nice down payment for it. What is tinting windows going to do? We've gone this far without tinting windows. But once again, shame on the board for saying yes to something that's already been done. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Any other public comment?
Yeah, Chris Alexander for the record. I don't like having to reiterate and what have you, and I'll try to avoid as much as possible in doing that. I just want you to understand that doing away with our municipal government, there's a lot of assumption that seems to be going on here. I don't know that the county has been put on awareness and as to what it's going to cost them to participate. I don't know that the district attorney's office is in unison with what you have proposed at all, because it's not, I'll tell you that. I've had several discussions today with a lot of people, and this is not just going to go away because you want it to go away. You double talked tonight. You talked about doing away with the court to save us money. You talked about code enforcement and that's going to save us money. How are you going to do code enforcement in the town of Mesilla without sending it outside our jurisdiction into the county so the county can deal with it? You're negating your duties by doing away with any portion of the government the way that it's set up. The government was set up far more educated than anybody in this room, including me, period. It was set up for due process. What you were talking about doing code enforcement, you'll do that on your own. How are you going to do that? You got no court. You're gonna appoint somebody to do code enforcement and enforcement of the code rather than the judicial system? Or are you going to create your own judicial system to act the way you want them to act? No, you leave the system alone. They've got their budget. They operate within their budget. Are you aware that when a DWI comes into this town and somebody's put on to go into rehab, that costs $10,000 and we have $80,000 sitting in the budget? Wow. We might have 3 cases come in. There's $30,000 right there. Is the county willing to take that on? Have they obligated themselves? Have they told the town of Mesilla that they're willing to absorb all the expenses through the judicial system? I don't think they have. I don't think the people have been made aware of this the way they should. You should have had more than 1 or 2 hearings, and theoretically, 1 or 2 hearings isn't enough. You need to have the.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Oh, I wish you would have had the courtesy to tell me I was on a time limit. Next time I'll remember that. But I think.
Other public comment. Thank you, Mr. Alexander.
Okay.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing as there is none, we'll move on to our next item, Board of Trustee and Committee Reports and Liaison Updates. Trustee Nevadas.
I don't have anything.
Trustee Johnson Burek.
No comment. No reports.
Trustee Cadena.
We have an upcoming J. Paul Taylor meeting this month on the 16th. Jerry,
Yes, I'm
did
gonna
you
try
see
to
that?
make that.
Yeah, so we'll be going to that. And Mayor, can I just ask you did you meet with the state, or should we do that later?
For
The state person for the historic site? You met with her and?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. That's it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
We have an upcoming MPO meeting, right? Am I correct? Or is this a no-go?
Yeah, we don't go till August.
August.
We're off.
Yeah, so this month we're off and then our next one is in August. Other than that, I don't have any. I'm not sure when the next SCOG meeting is. And that's it.
Okay. The next SCOG meeting is going to be at the end of the month on the 25th. It's always the last Friday of the month. So we did have a J. Paul Taylor advisory committee meeting. We got to meet the new historic preservation individual with the state, as Trustee Cadena was asking. She was there in attendance for the for that meeting, and the presentation was given to the advisory committee for a virtual tour as it pertained to what guests can expect as they come into the site. So that was exciting to see that progression. They did have some pictures of some updates, and it's a great. It's going to be extremely amazing to our community at the end of the day. They did note that there were a little over in June and sorry, no, I'm losing my months. In May and June to date, when we had that meeting, which was a couple of weeks ago, on the 25th, they had over 2,200 visitors into the historic site, which is fantastic, with a little over 200 of those being children and having children's activities, which is great to see, especially in times when school is not in session, and doing that. So that was a great part there. I did get to walk around with them as well, and going through some of the projects that we have going on, and then the project as well, walking around, as I had mentioned, with the DCA secretary, who was also in town for the project that's going on across the street from the community center in Parque de Cura, including extra parking in that area, and all the improvements that are going to be going into that site, which that should be, I know Lorenzo will give an update, but that should be completed here within the next week or two. I did have a meeting with one of our with our IT company that helps to provide services to the town. We did have a discrepancy in their contract that was noted earlier in the year that I had brought to their attention. So I'm working with them on either fixing the discrepancies on their side, or we might be pursuing a different contract. The discrepancies, I mean, we can go back into years of discrepancies and looking at those contractual bases, but we're looking at an average of about $12,000 to $15,000 a year in discrepancy that is not in our favor, that we've been paying extra. So it's the extra oversight that we are doing throughout to try to look into where and how and what contracts are reading, how they're doing, just as we've found, as I mentioned before, with the discrepancy with the locations for electric. We're trying to dive down into each one of these individually to find if there's any issues. So I do want to bring that to your attention as well. Not necessarily a committee report, but as part of that liaison kind of deal there. We did have a public art and ad hoc meeting, as well as a lodger's tax meeting on the 7th, last Monday. And in that, there was discussion about a new historic monument recognition that is being put forth actually by New Mexico State Department of History. So we're trying to hope to work in collaboration with them. In doing that, we'll be seeing that application come forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as to the Board of Trustees in the near future. I did have a great department head meeting to start off the new fiscal year with a lot of information and a lot of targeting and getting everybody on the same page. So thank you to all my department heads for that and everything that you do there. We are exploring the potential of a document storage solution that's a virtual document storage that uses AI to actually help with searching and finding information. So that might be the potential of what we look at in the future in the proposal to bring forward to you. I do want to note that there are a couple of different meetings that are coming up that for the Board of Trustees as well. In September 17th through the 19th in Ruidoso, New Mexico Municipal League is doing their annual conference. And then August 5th through the 8th in Albuquerque, the New Mexico Municipal League is also doing their Molly 1 and Molly 2 training. And I would highly recommend that if you're able to attend either one of those, that would be a great benefit for everybody. And if you would just either let Gloria or myself know, we'll be happy to get you registered for those events. That way you can do that. And with that, I know, let's see. Then on a last note, I do have a meeting scheduled this coming week with Samuel Baquera, who's with Energy, Minerals, and Natural Resources Department. We'll be meeting at the Bosque to discuss our substation and the agreement that we have there. So we'll be looking at what that is in that sense, and I might be bringing something forward to you with that. I do want to also note on one last before we move on. Actually, I'll save that for the end. So sorry about that. And then that's all I have as far as it pertains to that. So we'll move on to Board of Trustee and staff comments. We'll start with the Marshal's Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. First off, I want to thank the mayor and the town for authorizing me to call in off-duty personnel to assist DASO covering the county last Tuesday with the fallen officer or deputy. And then speaking on that note, this Thursday, we'll probably be covering the county for the funeral. So if you see a Mesilla Marshal vehicle outside of Mesilla, don't worry about it. There'll be two that'll help the county and one specifically for the town of Mesilla. So the town of Mesilla will still have full coverage. Thank you for authorizing the custom signals, which are handheld LiDARs. They're going to be put to use in the school zone when school starts back in session on Avenida. We've identified that as a problem. That was purchased with Law Enforcement Protection Fund, and then money's left over from vehicle purchase and outfitting that we had to spend by July. Thank you for the Malloy Dodge, the new Marshall vehicle purchase. That was legislative money given to us. I delivered that to Alamo today so they can start outfitting. So hopefully you'll see that on the road soon. And then I may be mistaken, but I think the Small Beginnings one is my Angel Armor, which is the new body armor and rifle plates that you guys authorized for the department to get, which was also Law Enforcement Protection Fund. So thank you for all that. Boylston, Detective Deputy 3 Boylston and Detective Deputy 3 Sandra Lopez just came back from Tucson. They were there last week for re-interrogation and advanced interrogation techniques. The teacher is a renowned nationwide instructor. They come back with good uses that will be put to use for the department and the town. I think that's it. I'll stand for any questions, concerns. Thank you. Have a good night.
Fire Chief.
Mayor and Board of Trustees, pretty much the big news for us right now is the Fire 1-2 class that's going on over at Doña County. So we coordinated with counties so we could start sending our people to get that certification instead of doing our own academy, which didn't have a certification. And so certifications will look a lot better on our ISO audit and hopefully get more money for the department and the town. So at that at the class right now, there are 17 students and 7 of them are Mesilla. That's pretty cool. So, I mean, that's supposed to be for all of their volunteers. So we're getting a lot better participation. We're also assisting with the training. There were 3 of us there on Saturday and 1 of us there on Sunday. So they're going to have 9 training classes over the next 3 months for this. The rest of it's all book work online. And other than that, everything else seems to be going pretty good right now. Anybody has any questions?
Mr. Chief, just to follow up, and in that, because it was brought up in public comment earlier, and I know that you discussed it briefly in our last meeting, but just to follow up on that, MIRVDA will be no longer having their contract come, not MIRVDA,
AMR.
AMR, no longer having their contract in the next couple of months.
About September 18th, I think, is the date that would be the 120 days after they gave their notice. They drew a line in the sand that we stepped over. So with all of that, city's going to have, they're planning on having up to 7 ambulances running. The county's going to have about 10 ambulances running. We have the ability to run 2. It's just staffing. So in the long run, we're going to be handling our own ambulance services. I think long term, it's going to be the best thing for the patients. The AMR is a profit-driven company. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but they have to cycle through patients quickly. And sometimes we'll spend a half an hour, 2 hours sitting there talking with people that didn't go to the hospital, trying to make their lives better so that they don't have to call us back again. And AMR doesn't have the time to do that. We do. So as long as there's another call pending, I'm not going to make people leave. They're going to be able to stay and help people and do more. So I think overall, the county is going to be better off doing this. It's just going to be a rough transition for all of the fire service to get to that point. We don't charge for ambulance service right now. The Medicaid amount's $800 that we could charge, that we could get back. It takes about 2 to 3 years to get that back. But even right now, if we're running 200 transports a year and they were all Medicaid transports, that's $160,000. That's a lot of money that we're not getting. So, and it's costing us. I mean, we've been blessed with more EMS fund last year. I'm hoping it's going to happen this year. They told us it would. We got more fire funding. So all of the costs for that comes out of that, all of the transport costs. And we've had more critical calls lately, which get expensive, equipment and medications and all of that kind of stuff.
And to address just on a side note, trustees, to address the concern that was also brought up during public comment, is that of the county potentially taking over the services. That's not the thought by any means. The thought is, in the discussions that have been happening, is that we might be able to join in partnership with them, as it's been mentioned.
So
in that sense.
So what I guess here's, and I can also maybe talk about, because that proposition that the county had is also public record. So there's 2 sides to that, right? We don't charge. The county has a certificate of need, which is a license to charge. Right now, AMR is using it. AMR won't get to use it after September. Then the county will fall back on that. And they have offered, we haven't gotten to all the details yet, to fold us in under that certificate of need, and then they would bill for us. But it also adds another layer of problems, because now anybody that's driving that ambulance that's being charged for has to have a DOT physical. And that's another thing I have to pay for. So, it's a give and take. We'll eventually figure it out. It's going to take a little while. The other side of it is the county commissioners voted to approve. They're giving a certain amount of money to AMR, which is bizarre. Nobody else in the country does that. AMR gives money to be there. So we've been giving them money to be there, and they're like, hey, we have all this money. Let's reallocate it back to the fire departments. And they have proposed to give us, and I just got the email, $150,000 to help hire 2 EMTs to sit on that ambulance for a year. We just got to figure out what we're going to do after that, because I don't want to fire anybody 365 days down the road. So that doesn't sound like a department that's trying to take us over. It sounds like a department that's trying to work with us. So that's pretty much it. Anything else?
No, thank you for sharing that. I wanted to make sure that we got the clarification out there for all of that information.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Public Works. And let's see if we can get.
was your vacation, Lorenzo?
It was good. Well needed.
It was about time. You
It's
could
about time.
relax. You.
I actually took the time to relax.
Darn.
Darn it.
Now you're gonna have to remember everything you were gonna say.
We had, I'll let you share what you had because you wanted to share with everybody. 'Cause
Mayor,
I was
board,
like, I'll pass the phone down that way everybody can see that.
Mayor, Board of Trustees, thanks for approving the purchase requisition for Southwest Envirotech. That's just to put up the finishing touches on the public's where they were aware of that smell that we were getting out of the drain. We went ahead and we took care of that. We found the problem, took care of it, did what we needed to do. We just need to put the final touches to it. So that way that can be taken care of. The project for Picacho that the mayor was talking about earlier, and that's been going on for, the months and months and months, is down to its final weeks here that we're anticipating its finishing. They were just removing a couple of poles that were putting us on delay as far as utilities, so that they can connect a couple of the pieces of the puzzle together, so that way that's all done. And we will start seeing on Wednesday, we will start seeing a little bit of heavy traffic on as far as pavement, because they will be starting to pave the parking lot first, and then they're going to move out onto the road. So that we're going to have the next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with a little bit of heavy traffic. We'll put it out to the public so that way they're aware, that it's going to be heavy traffic over there by the community center. And I guess what the mayor and we couldn't bring up to the screen here is that since June the 30th until July the 27th, I met with Nicholas from Calaverita here for the university project, and I just took quite a bit of photos just to show you guys a little bit of progress and see how it was looking, down in between where you guys can't get to. And well, take my word for it, it looks a lot different. It looks a lot different. There's in between the lateral and McDowell Place now is curving on both sides. Not all of it, not both sides has the sidewalks, but all the storage drains are in there. Looks very different. The driveways have improved there on Zia. Driveways on every road have been improved. So that's moving along, and they just wanted to move that along as fast as they could to address before school started. And like I said, a bunch of those pictures that were, the mayor wants to share the photos so you guys could see. It's a drastic improvement. Really, really different. Just when I looked in and I was going through there, it was just like, wow, So other than that, I'll stand for any questions.
I had a question related to that, because the residents in that small subdivision, they were having trouble getting in and out of there.
Again, I know that we try to post as best as we can, on our website, where the closures and all of that is. And I'm not really too sure with NMDOT. I mean, we do what we do on our part, to try to get that information out, to them. But yeah, there was, I know that it was hard for them to come in and out, but there is their way, for their through traffic to come in and out of it. Mhm.
I'll email those pictures to the trustees and then I'll post them on, so they're on social media.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Community development. Mr. Salazar.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. As far as what's going on in my department or in our department, it's pretty much a continuation. These projects I'm working on, they're pretty substantially, pretty big. The first one's lodgers tax, was communicating with Airbnb and VRBO and other platforms to try to get. We're slowly making some improvements. We're going back and forth. Emails. It's going a lot slower than expected. Sometimes I'm very impatient. I want to get done ASAP, but I got to be understanding at some point. But we are moving forward on that, so I'm excited to get that done. Records, the mayor mentioned today. We did have a meeting with a company that uses AI for record keeping, and that just like, wow, right? That was just like, that's exactly. It's like, I think all of us in that meeting, including fire, public works, events coordinator, all of us there were like, wow, this is exactly what Mesilla needs. And pretty much what it is the files that we have the records, maybe we don't, but they're not accessible. And that's the hardest time that I have is I don't know how to get you all answers if I can't research the history that happened here in the past. Excuse me. And I can, but it's very, very lengthy. So anywho, this software, it does also come with some scanners, some large scanners, large printers. We do have a lot of old files I like to scan in, have those accessible, not just for me, for the public, for all of you, so that way, you put an address or however we index it, and boom, it's right there. And it just does a lot of things, and I'm actually very excited. Hopefully that we continue to move forward on that. COG, Liana, she's all done with her putting together a case or presentation to the planning and zoning, make those final amendments so we can move forward on that certification. So hopefully not this coming up meeting, but the meeting after, we will have a final discussion or work session and a hearing shortly after that. We did have a couple, actually 3 residents in the last P&Z meeting that did speak at the end there regarding the university project. Their concern is well taken, as far as privacy, safety, and such of their properties with this new project. They weren't expecting, I guess, the way conditions are happening now. But I did talk with P&Z to maybe have a work session, put our brains together, something that we can do maybe to help with either amending the code or something like that. And of course, we are open to ideas anybody might have. But one of the ideas is floating around is Town of Mesilla allows a 6-foot perimeter wall. And unless there is a variance request, and obviously they go through the process of having the variance request, we're actually looking at maybe getting with legal to see maybe we can section, from one end to the other end, whatever that may be, where all the properties are lower than the street, and maybe be able to propose maybe a change in the amendment in the ordinance or such, just for those properties to be able to raise the wall, maybe another additional 2 feet. I already got contractors calling me, wanting to put those walls up. So hopefully it's something that we're doing, and I'm sure the mayor's working on other stuff on that end regarding the barriers and stuff. So we are listening to what they're saying, and we're trying to do our best to get those concerns resolved. The cell tower, I did go out there. When you first arrive, I'm like, wow, that does look right. At arm's reach. But I do have a rangefinder. I did range this at 48 yards. It's 48 yards is adequate. It meets it's what it needs to be at. So I think it was 100 feet. So 48 times 3, it's more than 100, so I know. But anywho, other than that, I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Finance.
Board of Trustees and Mayor, I just wanted to clarify something. The $1,000 check that keeps coming up, that was issued on 7/28/2022. It was discovered that it was posted to the wrong account during the bank record process, and it was returned, reversed back to their account on 8/11/2022. It was discovered right away, a journal entry was done, and it was given back. Then the other one for 46, something that was just done this year, that has been reversed. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you, Gloria. Trustee Nevadas.
I don't have anything.
Trustee Johnson Burt.
No.
Trustee Cadena.
I just wanted to say that I do appreciate all the reports that we get from you all, because that you give us a briefing up here and it tells us everything, a lot of stuff that you've been doing. So I appreciate all your calls, Marshall, and stuff. I'm kind of surprised sometimes to see what's on there. I don't know where the cameras on the plaza are, Mayor. I can just say that, I hope, are they facing El Patio by any chance? But anyway, so appreciate all the work that everybody puts into the reports, because they're really, really helpful, each one of them. Thank you, and thanks for the pics that will be coming.
Thank you,
What?
Trustee.
That comment
Which one?
I found offensive about our patio.
Oh, only because I might be there. That's why I said it. Because actually Marshall has seen me come out of El Patio. So
Now I made you divulge.
Yes, she said it was being offensive, so I had to
Clarify.
I had to clarify that it's because I don't want people see me coming out of El Patio. And the whole bit is just a joke. I won't incriminate anybody else. Oh, see? And so that's all I have.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mayor. Seriously, I mean, I know you're doing a lot of work every single day. And we appreciate it
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, Trustee. Mayor Pro Tem.
I have no comment.
Okay, thank you. So on those cameras that are on the plaza, I will, since that was recently talked about, there are 4 cameras that are on the plaza, and they cover every corner of the plaza, and
FYI.
so that you see, so all the businesses are more in a secure spot more than anything. One of the cameras does specifically face the Kiosco intentionally, so that number one, we keep an eye on the Kiosco, but very soon we will be having a live feed, as I have mentioned before, that will be going onto our website, so that guests and residents can see what's happening specifically at the Kiosco and on the plaza at any given point in time. So that will be there on there, but there are for that information, there are 4 cameras that cover almost every angle of that plaza. So
Thank you for the information.
I do want to note that I did receive notification from Senator Heinrich's office as well as Senator Lujan's office today, a little bit earlier this morning, that our congressionally directed spending request that we had put in for infrastructure to be put in as it pertains to our town hall project, just as it was last year, moved out of the committee and has moved to the floor on the House side. So it's $1 million in funding that we could potentially be receiving to go towards our town hall project. That will be determined through and voted on the floor, and then it would go to the president's desk for final approval. Of course, there's no guarantees on anything, just as last year when it was on last year's request in the same way, but when the budget wasn't approved last year, that congressionally directed spending was slashed on there. This is not necessarily congressionally directed spending per se. It's been redirected in a different funding source per the legislators. So we should be knowing a little bit more about that funding and the potential of that funding between December and March when it gets out of committee, and then, or if it does get if it gets off of the floor, and if it does get off the floor, then it does go to the president's desk. So there's a lot of ifs, but we're making the same progress that we made last year. And I'm very thankful to our congressional legislators for the support in our small community. One of the things that I do want to note, and I don't recall, and I apologize if Lorenzo had mentioned it either this meeting or the last, is that the Water Trust Fund, their application opened today and it closes at the end of the month. So likely in the next meeting, we'll be bringing a resolution to you to hopefully submit an application. We're hoping that we might look at 2 applications in particular. One of those applications is for our Water Well 1. Just in talking about that, if we didn't speak on that at the last meeting, Water Well 1, we had the services completed on that. It is down presently, and we did get the report back on what that's going to cost to fix that well and get that pump going again, and that's $78,000 to get that well repaired and back to operational capacity. So that will be one of the applications that we'll hopefully be submitting for through Water Trust Board. If not through them directly, we might seek emergency funding from them. Even though well 2 can carry the load, it's always great to have that balance just in case that well does move. In that Water Trust Fund as well, there's a copper and lead line survey that is recommended by the Environment Department that we did send notification out to the residents not too long ago about that, doing it on their part, but the town does need to do it on our part as well through all of our lines. The cost on that is about $30,000. And we'll be looking at seeking assistance to get that done through grant funding as well. There is $120,000 in capital appropriations that we just did issue bond sales on, or that I initiated that on for those bond sales to move forward. So that and that was for our water well and water tank project that we've been working on. That was from the prior administration that we had decided that needed to be moved to the top of the list to look at the addition of an additional water tank and water well. Souder Miller and Associates will be working on that as our on-call, as our second on-call engineer to get that planning and design done. And then our hope is that we will in January submit an application with the Colonias Infrastructure Board in order to seek the funding to have the installation completed of our of an additional water well as an additional water tank to build the capacity within our water system as it has been asked by several of our residents. We're working on all of these projects and trying to make things happen. There's applications in communication to you as well. There's applications that we have submitted as well that unfortunately were not approved on that, and with or grant submissions. So we did have a grant submission with the Historic Preservation Division for the update on our historic inventory. That one unfortunately was not approved on that from them. When I spoke to them, because they encourage you to reach out to them directly on the applications as they're submitted, they said that the application was great as an overall thing. It's just that the historic preservation, the grants that they issue on that are for typically for singular properties and updates to singular properties, not as updates to registers as a whole. So which is that's an understandable statement in that. So that's why that had moved up to our number one priority on our ICIP, because that was feedback that we had received from several of our community members throughout several other community meetings, that we needed to have an update on our historic inventory. So that'll be something that we drive down on with that. The other funding that wasn't approved was the funding through the New Mexico Department, or grant funding was the grant that was submitted through the New Mexico Department of Tourism, and that was specifically for the visitor center upgrades in the 3 environmental designs that we had done with that in proposing to try to move a project forward on that. And the reason for that, in explanation from the Department of Tourism, is that we still have a current project open with them that has not been fully completed, that will actually be completed within the next couple of weeks. But it wasn't completed by the end of the fiscal year when they were awarding those grant agreements or those grants. So the potential of us receiving that funding in the future is definitely there if we don't find alternate sources to potentially move forward. We're, like I say, we're always working and looking towards that. I think that it's important that regardless for our community, if there's ideas, bring them forward for our residents. If you want to have anything that's done, completed in your neighborhood, or something that might build the town to be better, please bring those ideas forward. That way they can be reviewed, added to capital infrastructure, and the potential of us finding the funding to make things like that happen. So, and that's really all I have. So with that, I thank you all, and I will call this meeting as adjourned. It is now 7:44.